What's going on, guys? It's your boy Leggy here, and I'm coming at you guys with another career sim video. If you missed out on the Chase Young career sim, it will be in the description and it'll be popping up on the screen sometime during this video. So make sure you go check that out, but make sure you watch this whole video because this is going to be a crazy one. We're doing a historic career sim with Jamarcus Russell. We're starting out in the year 2007, which was Jamarcus's rookie year. Thanks to the Flashback franchise Discord, I got all these rosters, all these draft classes, so I can use real draft classes all the way up until 2023, which should be around how long Jamarcus plays. So here we have Jamarcus. His rookie year, he only did start one game, but he's slated as the starter for week 1, so that's how we're going to do it. As you guys can see, he's pretty raw, 67 overall. He has a hidden dev trait. I changed it to a star. He was just a normal, but I thought if we're gonna make his career last, we should at least give him a star. And if the dev traits would have been around when he was playing, he definitely would have had a star, or definitely a superstar, because he was the #1 pick in the draft. So there's some glitches with like the faces, but mainly we're focusing on Jamarcus in this career sim. So we're gonna go ahead and simulate season number 1, the 2007 season. So as you guys can see, the CPU did what they wanted. They slated Josh McCown the starter. Even though he did have a worse overall, he led the Raiders to a 7-8-1 record. But maybe that wasn't such a bad idea, considering that Jamarcus did have a pretty good just like a pretty good progression throughout his first year. He was a 67, now he's a 72 overall. So Josh McCown, who is a 66 overall, maybe they just wanted to have a rest year for Jamarcus. Did he even play any games? He probably was the holder. Did he have any stats, like rushing or something? No. So no stats for Jamarcus in his first year. Probably what the Raiders should have done, just had a year so that he could progress. Let's go ahead and get into season number 2. Season number 3 for Jamarcus Russell was actually a pretty good year. 2,300 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. As you can see, the Raiders also signed Alex Smith, and who was also a #1 pick back in, I think, 2005. And the roster must not be right because he's 40 years old, so that's just a fault with the roster. But it doesn't really matter about Alex Smith because this is meant to be focused on Jamarcus Russell. 74 overall now, star dev. Definitely a huge improvement from last year. The yards weren't up, but I don't even think he started every single game. There must have been he must not have started the year out because Alex Smith did, but his passer rating went up by 13. He threw 17 touchdown passes and only threw 5 picks. If we go ahead and check out his rushing stats, only 100 yards. He's not really much of a running type of quarterback, but great year for Jamarcus. Let's go ahead and check out how he stacked up against some other NFL quarterbacks. Definitely not the top in yards, and in touchdowns he's pretty far down, but that's just something that we are going to have to improve in season 4. Season number 4 for Jamarcus, yet another improvement. Almost 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Jamarcus is really becoming a good NFL quarterback. He was 14th in yards and 9th in passing touchdowns. His passer rating was one of the worst in the league. But Jamarcus is really stepping up as a good NFL starter. He's a 75 overall, no Pro Bowls, but definitely an improvement from his real NFL career. 26 years old. We're going to have to go check out his contract because I believe, unless he signed an extension, he did sign an extension, 5 years. He actually got to the second year of his contract, unlike he did in real life. So, and that's obviously not right. This was just a player that they created into somebody else. He wasn't a 6th-round pick. But looking at his stats this year, his passer rating did go down, but everything else went up from last year. That's what I like to see. He got sacked 46 times this year. Definitely need an improvement on the offensive line. But I cannot wait for Jamarcus to head into year number 5. I'm waiting still for him to get a dev trade upgrade so that he could maybe get into the 80s. But Jamarcus Russell is looking like a solid NFL starter. Year number 5 for Jamarcus was a down year. 16 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. I'm kind of to the point now where I'm like, he's 27 years old. He's just entering his prime, but that was way farther than he got in his actual NFL career. So that is a win for the career revival, but at the same time, I really want him to hit that Pro Bowl level because he was a number 1 pick and he does deserve to get that. Like, he was known for being lazy in his career, and obviously this is a video game, so they don't really factor stuff like that in, but I really want Jamarcus to become a Pro Bowler, and he does have a couple more years to do it since he just signed that extension, and he's up to 76 overall right now for the Raiders. I did see that the Raiders drafted Mike Pouncey, who is I believe Pro Bowl center. I think he definitely made some Pro Bowls in his career. But I definitely would like to see, like I said before, Jamarcus to make a Pro Bowl. And yeah, Mike Pouncey's a 4-time Pro Bowler, so that was a good draft pick for the Raiders, protecting their quarterback. Hopefully, year number 6 can be his year. And I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, I know I didn't do this the year before, but rushing stats, probably not a big thing for Jamarcus, obviously, but a big improvement this year in the rushing category, I guess. 154 yards and a touchdown, first rushing touchdown of Jamarcus's career. In year number 6, Jamarcus Russell I think he got beat out. 9 touchdowns and an interception. It's either that he didn't start out the year or he got hurt at the beginning of the year or whatever, because he only played 10 games. But definitely not an ideal year for Jamarcus. Joe Webb, 1,600 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Because I looked on his player card, and he's not injured. So I'm not really sure what happened. Definitely his best year with not throwing picks, but he only played 10 games, so that's a pretty small sample size. Just stuff really doesn't seem to be working out for Jamarcus at the moment. The year is 2012, and this was his 6th year as a pro. Maybe rushing numbers were really good. Nope, 60 yards and 0 touchdowns. Contract-wise, he has 3 years left. So maybe they see Joe Webb really went off this year, because obviously they didn't trust Tim Tebow if they brought in Joe Webb to come play quarterback. Plus, Joe Webb is a dual threat. He rushed for 122 yards and a touchdown. The Raiders drafted Trent Richardson. So, oh my gosh. Year number 7, hopefully it's better. Hopefully this can be the year that Jamarcus explodes. And again, in year number 7, Jamarcus only played 10 games, 14 touchdowns, 5 picks. Tim Tebow came in, did his job, 8 touchdowns, 4 picks, 1,500 yards. Really nothing else you can ask from him. But Jamarcus really isn't playing to the best of his ability because he's getting hurt. Only 87 rushing yards this year. As you see, his weapons are Eddie Lacy and Trent Richardson. I know we haven't taken a look at this yet, but looking at some of his weapons, Aaron Hernandez, what is he doing? 68 overall. Dang, they only gave him a normal dev trade. That stinks. Cauchery, pretty good weapon. Brad Smith, a former quarterback, played for the Jets. Zach Miller, Niles Paul, Justin Griffith, Clyde Gates. So really no weapons for him at all. Offensive line-wise, Otis Hudson, Mike Tepper, or these dudes didn't play. Or no, did they? Oh yeah, we just gotta look at games played. Otis Hudson, Mike Tepper, Mike Pouncey, Chris Kamwatu, former Steeler, John Greco, Paul McQuiston, Andre Smith. And what's his overall? 79 star dev. So not many weapons for Mr. Russell. Let's go ahead and check out. We should probably look at his contracts. I think it might be up next year. Just pretty average. Hasn't went over the 4,000 yard mark. Hasn't went over the 3,000 yard mark in 2 years. Definitely surprised me with his ability to stay the starting quarterback this long. I'm surprised nobody's given up on him yet. But I mean, we're hoping for the best. Hopefully he can play well into his 30s and he can continue this journeyman type of career with one team. So let's hop in to year number 8. Year number 8, Jamarcus Russell went over the 3,000 yard mark again, but 14 touchdowns, 13 picks is just not a good look. He's at a 76 overall, kind of has stayed in that range for his whole entire career. Same amount of touchdowns as last year, but 8 more picks. Got sacked 37 times, really isn't getting any help from anyone. Quarterback rating down in the 70s again. I don't know, maybe a new look for Jamarcus would really help him out. He has 1 year left on his contract, so as he's into his 30s, maybe he could hop on to another team, try to revive his career a little bit. Rushing 119 yards, no touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown his whole career. I do want to look at some rushing numbers. He's getting no help from his running backs. 400 yards from Trent Richardson, 250 from Eddie Lacy. They have LeGarrette Blount too. Oh my gosh, this Raiders team is a poorly run team. It's a mess. Receiving wise, Dexter McCluster went over 1,000, but that's pretty much it. No more Jericho Cotchery. It's not looking good for the Oakland Raiders. Year number 9, it's gonna be Jamarcus's year. Year number 9 was one of Jamarcus's best years as an NFL quarterback. Still taking a ton of sacks. His quarterback rating was one of the best, if not, it was, I think, full season that he's played, one of his best years. He just hasn't been able to win games for the Raiders. That's probably put a lot on him just because he's just not, he just can't do it. He doesn't have enough weapons around him. Best year rushing numbers, 161 yards. Jamarcus is 31 years old, 76 overall. I believe this is the last year of his deal, unless they got a new thing done, and they got a new contract done. So he might spend the rest of his career as an Oakland Raider. Maybe a mentor for Jimmy G, if that's what they think the future is. Let's hop into year number 10. So in year number 10, Jamarcus Russell threw for 3,362 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions. And as you guys can see, with the number 1 pick last year, the Raiders took superstar dev Jared Goff, which definitely means that they have 2 successors on the roster for Jamarcus. 32 years old, this was his 10th year, didn't lead the Raiders to a playoff spot. I mean, in terms of yardage, one of his best years, but the touchdowns aren't there and the interceptions are way too high. Rushing wise, 127 yards and 0 touchdowns. Let's hop in to year 11 and see if Russell can put it together. So as you guys can see, this is now Jared Goff's team. John Gruden and the Raiders gave him the keys, and the Raiders made the playoffs with what I think to be still they got Derrick Henry, they got Amari Cooper, they still have Dexter McCluster, who really has turned into a good player. They have Dwayne Harris. So definitely build a pretty good team. They also just drafted Mike Williams. Pretty good team for Jared Goff. Jamarcus has 2 years left on his deal. I'm hoping the Raiders can win the Super Bowl just for the sake of Jamarcus. I'll tell you guys if they do in year number 11. 12 for Jamarcus Russell went exactly the same as 11 did. No stats. Jared Goff didn't lead them to the playoffs this year, and they did not win the Super Bowl. Jamarcus has 1 year left on his deal, so I could definitely see him retiring if he doesn't take another backup deal. So as you guys can see, we are out here in year 12. It's either 12 or 13. I'm not too sure which one it is. Sometimes this game glitches out and the year doesn't change. But I believe that this is year 13. We can count in a second. But I just wanted to head over to the Legacy Leaderboard to show you Jamarcus Russell really didn't have that successful of a career. I would match it in real life to like the career that David Carr had, except Jamarcus did have a lot more success, and he did have, due to the success, Jamarcus had more years starting than David did. But he has a legacy score of 449. I'm really not sure what that means. Obviously, it's just earned when you're playing. He didn't even make the playoffs throughout his career as a starter. So that goes to show you where he was at. And just to show a comparison, let's go up here. He has a 449, and his backup, Jared Goff, who was drafted just a season or two ago, already has a 499 score. So definitely not a successful career for Jamarcus Russell. If we go ahead and check out, because this is probably going to be his last year. He's a 68 overall. Best career year was definitely 2022, which would have been his third year as a pro. 26 passing touchdowns, that's also a career high, and he threw 5 interceptions, which was his least. So sacked, he really struggled. He got sacked 46 times in 2022, and that's kind of weird because that was his best year. But 57% completion percentage and 244 yards per game, which that should be his most too. So 2022, which in real life, I believe would have been, I have it written down here, because 2019 was his rookie year. 2020 was his second year. 2021, third year. So this would have been his 2010 season, which I really don't even think in 2000. I don't even think Jamarcus Russell was in the league in 2010. So definitely can say that this career revival. Jamarcus Russell was not in the league in 2010. So this career revival definitely warranted better than what he did in his career. But again, not anything. He was a consistent starter. That's what a below average starter is what we'll say. So we're going to go ahead and simulate. I believe this is year 13. We're going to simulate to year 14 and see if he's still in the league. So for some reason my game crashed, but as we expected, Jamarcus Russell did retire from the NFL after 13 years in the league. So I hope you guys enjoyed this career revival. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and make sure you stay tuned for more career revivals, and comment down below who I should do next. This has been your boy Leggy, and I'm out.